Granted, there are some people who I guess may have a tendency to low self-esteem, but suffice it to say that nobody, including you, is actually born with low self-esteem. You weren't born with low self-esteem. You were not born with high self-esteem. So where did you get low self-esteem if you have it, if you think poorly of yourself, more so than you should? Well, the answer is it came from somewhere else. Obviously, it came from your social environment. Somebody else put it on you. Now, what we want to do is we want to take a look at this and ask ourselves, how is it that we can reclaim balanced self-esteem? I get it. I understand there's such a thing as too much self-esteem. We call that narcissism. There are some people who think too highly of themselves, but contrary-wise, there are some people who think too lowly of themselves. Number one is just simply write your story. This is kind of a simple thing to do. It doesn't have to take a long time. You can take as long as you want. You could spend maybe a few minutes, or you could spend a few days, a few weeks. But write out your story. Begin when you were born, what day you were born, whatever you can remember. But what we are doing here when you're writing out your story is we're creating something that is a critique, but we're intentionally, purposely going to leave out all the negatives. There's something about people who have low self-esteem, it seems to me, at least in my life's experience, and I'm nearly 70 years old, so, I've seen a thing or two. Trying to share with you some of the things that I have learned in my experience, and it seems that people who have low self-esteem, they just kind of gravitate toward the negatives. So you say to this person, tell me a little bit about your background, and they'll tell you about all the bad things that happened to them. They don't seem to see the good things, and if they do, it's incidental. So the challenge here is to write your life story. Now, you don't have to write a book. I mean, you can if you want. I don't care. But write out your life story. But what you're going to do is intentionally, willfully, purposely just cut out the negatives. This is an exercise. We're not denying they existed. We're not saying they had no impact, but we want to channel our focus on those things that are positive so that we can come away with a balanced self-esteem. Now, keep in mind the objective, in my opinion, is not to have high self-esteem or narcissism. It's not to have low self-esteem, which is totally inaccurate of who we really are, but just to be, on target, something that is very balanced, something that is very realistic. So if you have low self-esteem to begin with, that indicates that you're not balanced. You're not focused on the things that are positive in your life, in your past. So we're going to change that. We're going to intentionally, willfully, purposely focus on those good things. So as you go back and you write out your story, your life story, what you're going to do is you're going to maybe title your story The Positive Things That Happened in My Life, the good things in my life. What were the good things that happened in your life? Now, if you say, I can't think of anything, you're not being honest with yourself. I mean, the fact that you're alive, that's a positive thing. I mean, you can start there, right? But surely, as you go back to your childhood, there were some pleasant memories. There was something that you did. Maybe you played with a puppy. I think I mentioned that in another video. Maybe you played with a puppy. Maybe you enjoyed a sandwich at McDonald's. I can't actually remember doing that, but I guess it's possible. Burger Chef, remember Burger Chef? Yeah, I enjoyed Burger Chef. But, there got to be, I just know there are things in your life that were positive, that you enjoyed. Maybe you just enjoyed a sunshiny day, and you can remember the specific day when you enjoyed that. That's what we're talking about. This is an exercise on purpose where we're focusing on the positive things so we can recalibrate the way that we perceive ourselves so that our self-esteem is balanced. Why would we do this? Well, the reason is because people with Asperger syndrome tend to have a very unbalanced sense of self. And that's been imposed upon us because we tend to be rejected by groups in general. We tend to be rejected by others. Unless somebody is intentionally, willfully, purposely focusing on accepting us, their default position is to reject us because they think we're a little weird. Well, the outcome of that is we have this self-perception that is extremely, extremely negative. Let's fix it. Let's work on that. Why not? If we can fix it and it's broke, why not fix it? That's what we're doing. Number 2 is this. Identify the high points in your life. All right, so now you've written out your life story. Maybe 1 page, maybe 1,000 pages, I don't know. So you've written out your life story, and you're focusing on the positives. Just leaving out all those negative things. You know, the time you're in school, maybe somebody bullied you, or maybe you got left out or overlooked for a job position or a promotion. All those things, those aren't part of this story. But as you have all the positive things that happened to you during your life, now we're going to go back to that same story, and we're going to highlight the highlights. Those very best things, those high points that you can remember of all the positive things that happened to you. Maybe it was a Christmas celebration. Maybe it was some time that you spent with a good friend. Maybe you don't have many good friends, or none at all, but there's one time you remember when you had a conversation with somebody and it was just very pleasant. That was a highlight of your life. Now, the reason I'm pausing here is I'm thinking some people just don't appreciate the highlights in their life. They just forget about them. In fact, they are so focused on the negatives that they allow the bad things that occurred to them to just flood in their brain and just wash away everything else, everything that's good and positive, particularly the highlights. That's not healthy thinking. Let me reiterate one more time. We're not talking about unhealthy high esteem, which is narcissism. We're talking about balanced self-esteem, where we have a realistic perspective of ourselves. And if you have Asperger syndrome, if you're on the spectrum, I can almost guarantee you that throughout your life you have been pushed down, you have been shoved down, you have been bullied, you have been made to feel less than what you really are, and all we're doing is just trying to bring that back up to reality, to normal. Number 3 is this: identify your values. Now, I don't want to offend anybody when I say this, but when I talk about identify your values, what I want you to do is just kind of write out your own 10 commandments. Okay, you can have 11 if you want. You can have 3, you can have 6, however many commandments you want. But just write out those things that you value, the things that you think are important to you and should be important to others. And if thou shalt not lie is one of them, because, people with Asperger syndrome tend to be brutally honest with themselves and with others, except when it comes to self-perception. Then for some reason they let everyone else lie to them and they believe the lies. But what are the things that you value? Do you value hard work? Do you value honesty? Do you value being considerate, kind to other people? Do you value having a good diet? I don't know what your 10 commandments are, because you're a unique individual. But the reason we're doing this part of the exercise is because we want to focus on the reality that you are a person that has positive aspects to your life, including high values. You have high standards. Why not recognize that? So once again, what we're doing is we're calibrating our self-perception. Number 4 is this: set a single, achievable goal. One thing that you can do. Yeah, I know you could set a lot of goals if you want to, but I like to do things that are very achievable. One single achievable goal that will give you a sense of accomplishment. Just one thing. I could help you out here and think of some things, but just take a moment and think for yourself. What is something that I could change in my life that would be a little bit positive, that would help me out just a little bit things that I do, how about if you just, okay, starting today. Starting today, I'm going to take a half-hour walk every single day unless the weather is atrocious. I mean, if it's cold out, I'm going to bundle up and I'm going to face the weather head on. If it rains, I'm going to put on a raincoat. That's not hard, right? You can do that. So I'm just going to walk a half hour a day. Small goal, you can do it. All kinds of goals. Dietary goals are kind of easy, right? Sometimes. So maybe you say, okay, I'm going to take the next week and I'm going to cut out carbs. Or maybe just a certain kind of carbs. Maybe you're not going to have any pasta. Or maybe you're not going to have any bread. That's hard to do, but no bread for a week. Now, why are you doing this? Well, the reason we're doing this is so that we can experience achievement. Because nothing, in my opinion, nothing is more motivating to reaching goals than to have reached goals. Once you do it and you see you can do it, it makes it easier to do the next one. And if you begin with something that is very simple, something that is very easy, something that is very accomplishable, that makes it so much easier to go to the next step. All right, number 5 is this may be a little bit difficult, but study yourself. Yeah, study yourself, evaluate yourself, and make just subtle changes. Now, have you ever tried this? Just sit yourself down and have a talk with yourself. Make sure nobody else is around when you do this because they think you're crazy. But maybe when you're home alone, get out a mirror or sit in front of a mirror, stand in front of a mirror, whatever, and talk to yourself as if you were someone else talking to you. Or as if you were you talking to someone else. And make some positive changes. You know what? You could say, hey, let me tell you what I like about you. Talking to yourself. Nobody's listening, just you and you. Okay, you could talk real quiet just in case. But let me tell you what I like about you. And by the way, while we're at it, here's a couple little things that I think that could even improve your life a bit. Try it. You know what? What do you possibly have to lose? Number 6 is forgive your mistakes. Yeah, I know. You've never made mistakes, right? I guarantee you've made mistakes. I've made mistakes because we're human. When I go back over my past life, I write out my life story in my mind, and I think of some of the dumb things that I have done. I can think of a lot of them. I mean, just dumb. Sometimes I think to myself, man, I got to be the dumbest person on earth. Some of the silly things that I've done, but I'm not thinking that other people do dumb things too. It's kind of like I'm focusing on myself. But number 6 is forgive your past mistakes. Because you're human. You do things wrong. I was going to say stupid, but okay, wrong or stupid or both. You do that because you're human. It's not because you are super flawed relative to everyone else. And that's the way people with Asperger syndrome sometimes see themselves. Okay, yeah, we admit other people have flaws, other people make mistakes, but we are so much worse. I am so much worse than everyone else. Now, actually, you're pretty much normal in that sense, but we don't like to acknowledge that. So one of the ways to rectify that, again, we're talking about balancing our self-esteem, is to forgive ourselves of the stupid things that we have done in the past. Well, you can't forgive yourself of the stupid things until, first of all, you admit that you have done stupid things, and sometimes you got to name them. Just bring the thing up in your mind and say, oh, I can't believe I said that to this person, or I can't believe I treated this person that way, or, I could have handled this situation a whole lot better, but I'm not going to ruminate on it. I'm going to say to myself, hey, you made a mistake, you're over it, you realize it, you learn from it, now you're forgiven. Don't do it again. And if you do, you're going to have to go back and forgive yourself again. Number 7 is, I think every Aspie's going to like this one, but number 7 is don't fit on purpose. Now, it's easy for people with Asperger syndrome, people who are on the spectrum, people who are autistic, not to fit into the group. That's easy. We don't have to try because we just don't. All we have to do is show up, and people either try to get away from us or they try to get us away from them, one or the other. But what would happen if we tried not to fit on purpose? Okay, we're going to be around these people, and this time I'm not going to let them reject me, but I'm going to acknowledge the fact that I'm not like everybody else, and what's more, I don't want to be like everybody else because everybody else has flaws. And I don't want to be like them because I'm going to pick up some of their flaws, inevitably. Just like I pick up their language. You speak English for a reason, right? It's because you've been around other people. And just like you pick up a language, you pick up people's bad behavior. So I am going to not fit on purpose. Now, the reason that I do this personally is because I find that compelling nagging to fit in really hurts me dramatically. I get frustrated. I get depressed. I get discouraged. I want to just kind of give up on life and quit because then I stop and think about it. Why do I want to fit? I mean, it's okay to fit in. It's okay to be part of the group. There's nothing wrong with that. But why do I have this craving to be a part of a group when the group is typically not the best people on the planet anyhow? Why do I want to be a part of that? Sometimes it's a good thing. Sometimes it's a bad thing. But by and large, I'm going to take control of the situation. I'm going to take the reins in my own hand. No one's going to tell me that I don't fit in their group because I don't want to fit in their group. I just don't want to be a part of it. Now, I don't mind being courteous to people. I don't mind being nice to people, but I'm not going to be dependent. Now, watch this because this is important, folks. I'm not going to be dependent on the group or the group's acceptance of me for my self-acceptance, and that's what we're talking about here. It's not that we're just snubbing people and being aloof or being narcissistic. We're talking about understanding that we need to accept ourselves as we are for what we are because there's nothing wrong with us innately. Okay, yeah, we got flaws. I understand that, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying punishing ourselves psychologically, mentally, because we don't quite fit into the group or the groups. And then we say, no, I'm going to take control of this. I'm not going to let them tell me they reject me. I'm going to let me understand that there are some advantages to not being part of the group. So I'm not going to fit on purpose. Now what you see are two rectangles on your screen. If you want a conversation to continue, guess what? All you got to do is click on one of those two rectangles and we just keep on talking. If not, thanks for stopping by and we'll see y'all next time.